Hello everyone and welcome back to English Valley Cafe. I'm Anne. Today in this video, I want to talk and share a little bit with you about how we address people in America. I know that formality is viewed differently in different countries and different cultures. What's considered maybe formal and appropriate way of addressing people in one country might not be the same for another country. So today in this video, I want to talk a little bit about, what is considered appropriate. How should you address people? And I think this is really important whether, you're living in America or perhaps you work with clients or you have vendors that are in the United States. These are, really important because they make a good first impression for other people. So in this video, I have kind of split it into three sections. So first I'll talk a little bit about when we use sir and ma'am, and then when is appropriate to address people by their first name. And then stay tuned for the entire video because at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the names that we should not call people, we should not address people by. Because they're considered rude and inappropriate. All right, so I'm going to start off by talking about sir and ma'am. When do we use this to address people in America? So, sir and ma'am are quite formal way of addressing someone, and it's more polite to address somebody by calling them that if you don't know their name. And in America, usually if you go to the grocery store, if you're at the post office, any kind of government offices, or just out in public in general, if you don't know the person's name, we will address them and say sir or ma'am. So for example, like if you're at a grocery store and you see some guy drop his wallet, for example, then you might say, sir, you just dropped your wallet, okay? Or ma'am, you just dropped your key. So generally we will use sir and ma'am to get someone's attention or to address somebody when we don't know their name in public places. Now, if you are working in customer service, how should you call people? Should you call them by their first name? I think this is more of a personal preference. But I know that in a lot of the American companies, they will typically address their customers either by Mr., Miss, and then their last name, or they will call somebody by their first name. So, for example, I know that if I call customer service for companies in America, they will either say, Miss Huang, or they will say Anne. But I know that when I call customer service that are overseas, like in India, in Indonesia, and in Philippines, they're usually a little bit more formal and they would say ma'am or sir. But I feel that when they call me by ma'am, I feel, I don't know. I guess this is just a personal preference, but I feel a little bit more of that distance with this person versus if somebody says, oh, Miss Huang or Anne, I feel that personal connection with them. So, again, if you're not sure, you can usually just call them Mr. or Miss, or just call somebody by their first name. Now, I'm telling you this because from personal experience, I get a lot of direct messages on my Facebook and on Instagram, and it'll say something like, hi, ma'am, what's your name? Could you help me with English? When I see this kind of email, I don't even bother responding. It is delete. Okay, I hit that delete button right away because I feel like this person did not take the time to do the research and they're not really interested. Because my name is clearly written on my page. Okay, so do some research before you write your business inquiry. Another thing I want to mention is that I know in the Asian culture and perhaps other cultures as well, you call or address the teacher by saying teacher. In America, if you're in primary school or middle school, high school, we'll typically address the teacher by saying Mr. or Miss and then their last name. So for example, Mr. Smith, Miss Smith. If you're in college or university, we'll address the professors by saying Professor Smith. Or if they have a PhD degree, like a doctorate degree, we'll say Dr. Smith. So professor or doctor and then their last name. Now, since I work online a lot, the atmosphere online is quite casual. So I actually prefer people to call me by my first name, but I know that, some people don't feel comfortable doing that. They'll say teacher or teacher Ann. So, if you're trying to talk to somebody, a teacher online, you can just address them by their first name, and that is fine. Now, the last thing I want to address is don't ever use words and address a female teacher or any female by saying like, hi or dear, honey, sweetie, gorgeous, babe, baby. None of these. These are just going to get you in trouble, okay? It's considered inappropriate, and I think that it is common sense. Perhaps in your culture, this might be seen as okay, it's appropriate, but in American culture, even in the British culture, this is not appropriate. So just trying to avoid that. Don't send a message or even address any females by using any of those words. All right. I hope you find this video useful. I know that each culture views formalities differently. If you have different views about or opinions about what I talked about in this video, I welcome your comments. I know that we can all learn from each other and, trying to be more respectful and open-minded when we interact with people from different cultures and different backgrounds. And that's it for this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you find it useful, and subscribe to English Valley Cafe if you haven't done so. And tap on that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you back here next week for a new lesson. Take care.